Think about the last time you bought something online. Was it because of the product? Or because the message hit you in just the right way? Or maybe it was just the right time. That is not an accident. That's psychology at work. Today's guest has built her career helping entrepreneurs understand the why behind their customers' decisions. And she's going to show us how applying psychology to your marketing can lower your costs, create a pipeline of dream clients, and help you show up more authentically in your business. Welcome to Rocky Mountain Marketing. I'm your host, Katie Brinkley. Join us as we dive deep with the world's leading digital marketing experts every single Tuesday. It's all about giving you the strategies that are working right now, directly from those who are making an impact. With my 20 years of experience, I'm here to help you navigate the world of digital marketing. Whether you're looking to sharpen your skills or transform your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started on today's journey to success. Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Today, I am sitting down with someone who knows a thing or two about scaling businesses with the right clients. Lisanne Murphy is the creator of Lumina Growth Lab, a growth and scaling solutions agency, consultancy, and education platform. So just in the past year, she's taken 3 companies across the 7-figure mark. What she specializes in is what she calls dream traffic. So she uses behavioral psychology principles to craft market research, messaging, product development, and campaigns that fuel explosive growth. Her strategies are what catapulted her podcast number 18 in the U.S. business entrepreneurship category within 24 hours of launch. And she's also an author. Her most recent book, Toxic Relationships, Breathe Again, hit #1 release in self-help and abuse. Lisanne, I am so excited to have you here today. And, you and I had the opportunity to talk previously, and we were like, man, we shouldn't just talk. We should talk and record it and have you actually on the podcast. And so I want to talk about dream traffic because that's what really piqued my interest when you and I were having our get to know you call, because a lot of entrepreneurs are told, well, you just need to get more leads, but not all leads are created equal, right? So let's talk about what dream traffic is and why it is such a game changer for lowering your acquisition costs.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here, Katie. Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here on the podcast to be able to talk about the things that we're both passionate about at the same time. So I'm sure it's going to be an amazing conversation, and I'm really excited to dive in.
When I first started as a business owner, I was under the like, there's no bad leads. Clients are clients. You want to just bring in the revenue, and traffic is everything. Let's talk about that dream traffic.
Absolutely. Well, this is something, I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? And so I'm definitely, I have a lot of at bats, right? Where I'm trying different things to see what sticks. And one of the most common themes that I recognized early in my entrepreneurship journey is that if you don't know how to drive leads, then it doesn't matter how good your idea is or how hot the market is. Like if you can't get in front of the right people, like you just suffer. And I had multiple businesses in the beginning go down just because it wasn't because I wasn't passionate about it. It wasn't because I wasn't working hard. It was because I didn't know how to control traffic. And so I really spent the good part of a decade figuring out what does that mean. And that's really how the birth of my agency happened is I basically was like, I'm going to figure this out for myself. And with my friends, and basically, I had them only pay me on performance. So I was like, let me just try out some theories, test some things, and you pay me if it works. And it started working. And so I got paid. And then I brought on more clients that would pay me upfront instead of just on performance. It was really like my agency for me really became it's one of the reasons why I call it a lab, right? It's a place of learning to go after that. So let's talk a little bit about what dream traffic is. Whenever I was on a call with people and I'd ask, like, who's your customer? They'd always start with things like demographics, right? Like I'm talking to females, executives, between the ages of 35 and 55, or people in a relationship between the ages of 35 and 60 and that are located in the US, like the basic demographic things. And while that's helpful, it's just not enough. It's not enough at all. Like there's so many different layers that you need to understand. For example, you need to understand psychographics. Psychographics are essentially like what motivates people to do things. You also need to understand their consumer behaviors. Are they purchasers? Like on a high level, have they bought things in this arena before or not? And then on a deeper level, are they looking for a solution? Are they even problem aware? Are they solution aware? Also understanding the competitive market, like are other people selling something similar to what you're wanting to sell? All of these matter, right? In finding your right person. So like also like what's more motivating to them? Is it driving them towards a reward that they're looking for or helping them navigate away from pain? So like I'll share a quick story to kind of illustrate these principles. I had a client that I was working with, and we started working together in 2018, and then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden all of our marketing just fell flat. People got scared, right? There was a lot of uncertainty in the market, and we were like, wow, what is happening? Especially when we realized that the product that we were selling was it was part of like how to be more in control and how to own their own business, right? So we were like, it should be doing well. Like their product should be doing well. But before the pandemic, all of our messaging was geared towards how to achieve your dreams, have more money in the bank account, that sort of messaging. And when we sat back and we thought about what is the environmental feeling that's going on in the marketplace, and it was fear and uncertainty and the lack of control. So we switched our messaging to, instead of running towards a reward, to running away from pain. And we started talking about, you know, um, not letting an entity take control of your destiny, being in control regardless of what's going on in the environment. Like, I mean, we obviously couldn't say the word COVID at the time, right? Those things were
Mhm.
getting shut down. What actually happened is that when we started keying into the mindset of the people that we're getting in front of, the cost of acquisition actually went in half. So the business got better in the pandemic because we were keying into exactly what was going on in the market. So it was just such a powerful thing to recognize. Another coach that I was working with, we were working with his program, and he was selling to people that were doing like one-on-one coaching, like how to turn their content into a course. And he was like, I was like, what's the angle you want to take? And he was like, well, like, I really want to take that, like, these coaches can create a legacy by putting their information into a course. And so that it's not like if they ever, so they can work without working, that they can sell their content beyond whether they're on the phone or not. And so we crafted all the messaging around that. And again, it fell flat. So going back and looking at like, what are other people doing? And based on the competitor analysis this time, we realized that every single person that was talking to coaches about their coaching and turning their stuff into a course, it was focused around lead generation. It was, let me fill your course. Let me flood your course with people. And so I had a conversation with this client, and I said, look, like, I want to do a test. Like, I know that you want the legacy angle, which is what you're giving them, but you have to get in front of people with what they want first. So I was like, let's just tweak your messaging, right? Because like, you have resources to help them fill their course, not just create their course. So we changed the messaging to match what the competitors were doing, and sales just started rolling in, right? And so it's understanding what is motivating people. What's the environment out there? How can you capture their attention, right? So dream traffic is way more than just female, male, age, professional life. There's just so many nuanced factors to getting in front of the right people that you have to pay attention to.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that that is where, with social media, which is what we do, at Next Step Social, like so many people just get, oh, well, I want to make something that'll go viral and just get seen by a lot of people. But what's the next step? And the psychology of all of it really comes into play. And so that's where, again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like all these posts that you're doing on social media, they should have a purpose and a reason, because they're going to hit people in a different part of their buyer journey and for what they want, as far as like the dream traffic, as you call it. I want to talk about the psychology behind what triggers someone to take action immediately instead of just scrolling by, because now we've got that dream traffic. I love the example that you shared about like, okay, well, we shift the messaging from somebody of being like just in the awareness phase as into like the problem solution phase. So what are some psychological triggers that would make someone stop their scroll and take action immediately?
I think that's an amazing question and a really important thing to understand. And I think to understand it even better, it's really important to zoom out to how the benefits of different channels, right? So like For example, when you're talking about like stop the scroll and take action, like you're talking about platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, right? Where someone is on there for entertainment, they're zoning out for a moment. Like I'm reading recently that like more and more people are actually using TikTok as a search engine, almost even more than Google, which is fascinating to me. However, the majority of people that are using those platforms, they're not looking for something. It's not intent based, right? So when they're on those platforms, we have to employ tactics that work for what's called interrupt based marketing, right? Whereas when you're on platforms like Google or with LinkedIn or email, and LinkedIn is kind of like a hybrid of both, but we'll stick with Google and email. People are looking for something. They're on Google because they're like best Thai food near me or comfiest blanket for my family. Like they're looking for something specific, right? And so it's intent-based marketing. So like I was talking to I was on a sales call just last week with a company and they were like, I was telling them that Facebook ads are more expensive. And they're like, well, why don't we just put more money into Google? And I said, well, yes, Google ads are cheaper typically, but it's because you're getting people that are farther along in that problem aware to solution aware spectrum, like you were just talking about, right? So of course it's going to be lower because you're already getting people that are like, I want this solution and who is it that has it and who's showing up higher in the search results. Using the tactics that you use for intent-based marketing on Google and email are going to be very different than the tactics that you're using on an interrupt-based platform, right? So on an interrupt-based platform, like you're mentioning with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, how do you stop the scroll? Really, it comes down to emotions and understanding their pain on like a very, very simple but deep level. So what do I mean by that? It is a known fact that in terms of sales, if you can describe someone's problem accurately to them, almost in a way that like they were like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm experiencing. But like I didn't even have words for that. People automatically make the mental bridge that you also have the best solution. Oftentimes, business owners get so obsessed with their product, they forget that how to talk about the problem that they're solving with their product. And for interrupt-based marketing, you have to lead with the problem. You have to lead what's paining them. So, for example, I'm working with a consulting group right now who they teach communication skills to tech companies, right? They work with these companies where there's brilliant people in terms of their ability to create solutions, but they have it communicating those solutions to management, to making strategic decisions, or people that are potentially going to need to fund the project. The communication is just like not there, right? So like a product-based approach would be like, hey, like we could help you communicate better to your people, right? And I said, okay, but like what is the actual pain? Like what are they missing because they don't have this communication skills? And after talking about it and doing some market research through AI, we realized that there was two major problems that were coming up. One was that there is a communication issue with the generation gap. So like how different generations receive messages and need to communicate, and that their inability to communicate stops their project from getting funding. And so we were like, okay, let's lead with that. I'm putting together a campaign for them right now where it's like, are you struggling to get funding because your communication sucks, basically? And so of course, like, I mean, it's so specific, but like the people that are struggling with landing money to fund their project because of their communication, they are 100% going to be like, yes, that's me. Yes, let's click. Yes, let's go. And then also, and it could be a totally different group, right? We're also running the messaging of like, are you having a hard time communicating with people of a different generation because they just don't communicate the same as you do? And we're fleshing out the exact messaging, but like that's the angle we're taking. Right? If someone is like working where like their superiors are actually younger, or even their project managers are younger, and they're having a hard time communicating what actually needs to be created, right? When they see that, they're going to be like, yes, I have that pain, and so I will click. So leading with the pain is, and not just like, are you struggling to communicate, but like painting the picture. Like you're struggling to get funding, or you can't present your ideas in a presentation. Like really painting the picture so that when they read it, they're like, oh my gosh, that's me. Yes, click more. So let's figure out what's going on here and if they can help.
I love that's part of what we have in the 4-post strategy is the awareness phase, is making people say like, hey, she's talking or they're talking to me. I didn't even really voice that I was having that problem, but they're speaking directly to me. You have my attention. So what is in addition to maybe just tweaking some of your messaging, what else are some psychology based tweaks that you'd recommend people make to ensure their pipeline's a little bit more predictable? Because again, we want to have those dream clients. We're on social media, we're getting their attention, but what's another psychology based kind of tweak that
Yeah.
we could do to make sure our pipeline's more predictable?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of my favorites is to reframe or smash their current beliefs about their situation. So, like, for example, like I'm working with a client right now. He's a coach and he heals marriages that are falling apart. It's really amazing what he does. But his angle is that's really amazing. Typically, when people go to therapy for relationships, it's two people that are like, man, we got to figure things out. Let's go in and let's get some help. His angle is totally different. And his angle is, even if you are in but your partner doesn't want to fix it, like, we can help you. And so his whole slogan is save your marriage alone, right? So to like take it from like one side. And so like there's a limiting belief that a lot of people have is like, I'm the only one that wants to fix this. So like it can't be fixed. And he's smashing that by saying you can fix your marriage alone. So understanding like what are the beliefs that they have that need to be smashed by your solution. They'll be like, oh my gosh, well, like I thought that I couldn't save my marriage alone, but he's saying I can. Like that's hugely curiosity invoking. So let's tap that and figure out if it is going to work for me.
I'm loving this conversation so much because it's just reiterating everything that with my book, The Social Shift and the 4-post strategy. That's one of the main reasons why I get booked to speak on stages is because my main talk that I get booked for is how to post less for more business. I mean, like people are like, "Well, you mean I don't have to post? I don't need to be on social media so much?" And it's exactly what you're saying, like just calling out that, hey, everyone says you have to do this. Well, let's go ahead and do the opposite. So I actually really love it. I love this conversation. It's so insightful. So we've looked at how behavioral psychology can help you attract your dream traffic, how you can, tweak some of your messaging in your social media or in your email campaigns, or even, like I did in an entire book or whatever. Let's talk about how important it is to slow down, because one of the things that I do every summer is I take a step back. I'm still working, but I only come into the office maybe 2 days a week. I work from home. I don't do any speaking arrangements or engagements during the summer. I'm at home and I really slow down. So let's talk about it from like a psychological lens about how this importance of slowing down can impact the way business owners show up.
Yeah. I love that you bring this up. And I think that it's not talked about enough, to be completely honest. And I think it's amazing that you take that time in the summer. Like, congratulations for doing that. Cause it's tough. Like when you're ambitious and you have lots of responsibility, like it's really tough to remember to slow down.
Yeah. Lisanne, at the beginning of my business journey, I almost felt guilty for
Oh,
doing
for
it. Like, oh,
sure.
people don't think I'm taking my business seriously. She's not going in and working, 60 hours. She's not serious about her business. But yeah, it took me a while to get to this point.
For sure. And I think there's lots of ways to do it, like on a micro level, something I try to do is I don't have meetings on Fridays. Not because I am, and so some Fridays it's like, peace, I'm going hiking. And other Fridays it's like, okay, I need to just like really sit and strategize some things. I had a really crazy week, so like I need the time, right? And so like on a micro level, taking time to just sit and to think and to be and to actually check in with how you're feeling about things is really, really important. Like something I'm doing that I decided actually while I was waiting to get on this podcast was I was like, I want to write down a list of everything that I'm doing and kind of create a scale of like how much I enjoy that activity or not. And then based on that, the ones I don't enjoy, how delegatable are those activities or not, right? Like that's something that I'm wanting to do, that I was like, oh, I think I'm going to make some time to do that this weekend. So those are like some micro scale things. One interesting piece about my journey is so I also think also want to like advocate for like, if it's possible. I know it's difficult if you have children, depending on like how demanding your work is, but like on a macro scale to take a break. Like in 2021, there was a huge shift with the algorithm with Facebook that really just changed the game. For those that are in the game, the iOS 14 update was like really, it was seismic in terms of its impact on attribution. And my business was almost solely running Facebook ads at the time. So my business got rocked. And I had this moment of like, do I lean in and become the expert of, an agency that leaned in and figured it out and waited till Facebook could figure out their stuff? Meta now, right? That was part of the
Yeah.
shift. Or do I take a step back? And I felt really, really strongly to take a step back. And at the time, I had a team of 13 people that was working for me, and we were just humming along. We had a couple dozen clients. Through attrition of the market, I lost a bunch of clients. And then a few, the working relationship was just kind of meh. And so I let them go, and I pared down my work to be what I could purely take as a freelancer alone. And I made the hard decision to let go of my team, which at the time I felt like a failure because there were people on my team that they were depending on the income coming from my business to support their family.
Yep.
And I never intended to close the doors. I didn't close the doors, but really pull back. And so literally for months, I felt like a failure, and I did my best to set these people up and give them a couple months to find work. And it was a very intense time, and everyone was so understanding. So what I did is I hopped on a plane and went to Europe and lived like a monk in a monastery for several weeks. That's what I did, just to reset and sit with myself, because my business had gotten out of control. There were market dynamics that were impacting me, and it was just crazy. And so it changed my life to be able to take a step back and just sit. And so I could not advocate enough the power of whether it's taking a weekend once a quarter, taking a day once a week, taking 2 weeks. My examples, I range from the micro to the macro, but I'm a huge believer in taking space and taking
I,
time to just sit.
I think that when you do take the time and in the quiet, that's when things become clear. You were in Europe, it was like a monk, and even Fridays, so I take Fridays as my no call day. The only call I have is with my leadership team, and we have it and just this is where we're at, this is what we're working on, but that's the only call I take on Fridays. Other than that, I sit down and work on the company stuff, what I'm passionate about. I've been working on my next book again. I mean, this is just allows me to find the clarity of what it is that's still driving me as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because man, it's especially with social media, we get so caught up in the comparison game that sometimes I think it's really easy to lose our way and say, oh, well, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I need to be doing this. And then sooner than we realize, we're not following our own path and our differentiator to attract our dream clients, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's kind of scary to take a step back and do that, and I think sometimes I'm sure there's Fridays where you're just kind of dead and you don't do anything, and it's even hard to not beat yourself up for that, right?
Yep.
But it's important to let the mind and the body reset for sure.
Well, Lisanne, this has been such a great conversation. I would love for people to check out your podcast, to check out your book. For people that want to dive deeper into your work, where is the best place for them to connect?
That's a great question. I appreciate the ability to connect. So if you want to connect with me, LinkedIn is where I'm hanging out the most right now. I do have a presence on Instagram and Facebook. It's Lisanne Murphy HQ on Facebook and Instagram. On LinkedIn, you can just search my name. My name is odd enough that I'll probably be the only one that's up there, which is a bit of benefit for me in my business life. My podcast is called The Marketing Matrix, and you can find it at themarketingmatrixpodcast.com. And then my book is called Toxic Relationships Breathe Again. And that was a really fun personal experiment and business experiment as well. And you can find that on Amazon. It's been a joy being here, and I feel like we could dive into multiple topics for much longer. So it's been fun to kind of lily pad around and bounce around on a few subjects today.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like I said, I'd love to dive in deeper on a couple more topics, because what we talked about today, I think it's like you said, we just touched around on all the lily pads a little bit. I like that example, but it's all stuff that we're experiencing as entrepreneurs. And I think that for everyone that's listening, here's my challenge to you. Take one piece of today's conversation and put it into action. Maybe it is, the psychological drivers that help your dream traffic, or maybe it's reworking one piece of content that you've been doing on social media to really dive into that pain point first, or Maybe it's just taking 5 minutes to reflect before your next meeting or marketing decision. Because honestly, the truth is, marketing is not just a strategy, it is psychology. So much of it is psychology. And when you understand both, that is when growth really happens. So, Lisanne, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I hope you're leaving with valuable insights and the inspiration to lead your market. If you've enjoyed our time together and found today's podcast episode useful, I have a small favor to ask of you. Please hit that subscribe button to stay updated with the latest episodes. And if you know someone who could benefit from these episodes, maybe a fellow business leader or an aspiring entrepreneur, go ahead and share this episode with them. Let's spread the knowledge and grow together. Also, I'd love to hear from you and continue the conversation beyond the podcast. Visit me at katiebrinkley.com to connect, to find more resources, or just to share your journey. And be sure to pick up your copy of my new book, The Social Shift, at katiebrinkley.com/book. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Katie Brinkley, and I can't wait to dive into more strategies and stories with you on the next episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Let's keep on taking your marketing to new heights.